Community Church.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Riggs.
Let's pray together. Father in heaven, thank you so much for the beautiful day that you've made today. We see your creation and your wisdom and this changing of the seasons. We see the new growth that you're giving the earth right now. And thank you, God, for your beauty and your wisdom in creating all the wonderful things that we enjoy. We know that every good gift and every perfect gift is from above. And so we thank you for those wonderful things. You've given us all the food that we need to live. You've put air in our lungs. You've given us places to live and people that love us and things to do, hopefully for you. And so we thank you, God, for all of these good things. And God, we thank you also for the good news of the gospel of Jesus, where we actually deserve your punishment because of our sin and rebellion against you. All of us have gone astray from you like sheep. But instead of giving us the punishment we deserve, God, because of our rebellion against you, you actually sent your only Son to live a perfect life and to die a death that absorbed the punishment and the anger that we actually deserve from you. And then you raised him from the dead, and you lifted him up to heaven and made him the King of Kings. And right now, Jesus, you are ruling and reigning over the world, upholding the very universe by the word of your power. And so thank you, Jesus, for your obedience to the Father and your wonderful work that you've done on behalf of sinners. And we thank you, God, that you're going to send your Son back to earth one day to make all things right. Thank you, Jesus, that you are ruling and reigning right now perfectly, and that you will accomplish the plan of the Father in time. Father, I pray for those neighbors of mine and my friends here in Clawson, those that don't know you, that they would turn from their rebellion and see their need of you and see that having a relationship with you is the only thing that can give them joy and peace and satisfaction in life. Help us not to look to the things that you've created to give us that joy, but to look to you, the Creator, to give us the joy that we can only have by knowing you. God, we thank you for the blessings that you've given us in our school system. I thank you for the principals and the teachers and the superintendent that you've given us. Thank you for the wisdom that you've given them. I pray for the safety of every child that goes to school and elementary and middle and the high school here, that you would guard them, protect them from harm. I thank you for the police department and the fire department, those who are looking out for us and caring for us in practical ways. I thank you for these councilmen and women, for their service to the people of Clawson. I ask that you'd give them wisdom. I ask that you would bless them greatly. Bless their families, provide for them, give them joy in you, and guard them from the evil one. We know that wisdom comes from above, and that if we ask, then you'll give wisdom to anybody who asks. So I ask that you would give them wisdom, give them servants' hearts, help them to realize that the way of Jesus is to not put themselves first, but to actually put others first and to serve and not to be served. Father, I pray that you would help every citizen of Clawson to realize that as well. I pray for those who are lonely in our city, for the elderly whose families have neglected them and don't visit like they should, that you would please help us to be your hands and feet help the Christians to be your hands and feet and to care for these people who are lonely and hurting. God, I thank you that you are going to send your Son back to earth one day to make all things right. And I pray, Lord, that everybody in the sound of my voice would make themselves ready by trusting in you, Jesus, and trusting themselves to you and repenting of their sin and following you so that they can be ready. Because, Jesus, you are the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and you will rule and reign forever. And I trust you to accomplish these things, God, according to the counsel of your will. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Milan.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Sampson.
Here.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Here.
Councilmember Tinley.
Here.
That is a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. First thing we're going to do tonight is approve our agenda. Can I get a motion to approve our agenda? Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as presented. Support.
Tie.
I'm going with A. It's a closer name to the top. So,
Okay.
There we go.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan,
Yes,
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Tinley.
Yes.
We have an agenda.
thank you. Our agenda has been approved, and now we'll move on to public comment. If you are here this evening and you'd like to speak for any item that is on our agenda, we welcome you to come to the podium, state your name and your address, and we will allow you 3 minutes to share what you may. Sure.
Hello, my name's Matt Nellett. I live at 694 Lerner, and I'm here because I have a stone wall that's in the back of my property, and it has crumbled. It crumbled about 1.5 years ago, and I share it with an apartment complex. It's Amber Apartments, 425 North Rochester. And the wall appears to be, it's theirs. However, I've been in contact with the owner of it, and they are claiming that it's my wall, and since it's crumbled, they are also claiming that I need to repair it myself and pay for the entire thing, basically. And we've gone back and forth, and there's been question as to how it crumbled, as like it did one of my trees, roots get underneath of it, and did it crumble? Did the water get in between the cracks of it, and did it crumble? Any of that? Anyway, gone back and forth. They told me to reach out to my insurance company. My insurance company said, well, since the wall didn't cause any property damage, that there's nothing they can even cover or do. So I'm here just kind of asking the city to either get it fixed or to reach out to them to get their own wall fixed. I did get a survey of property. They said that the wall was on my property, therefore it was my wall. The survey shows that it is not on my property, so it is on theirs. So I'm not really sure what to do now.
So Matt, you're so lucky that Nick Stepnitz is part of our organization and
yes.
sitting up here today. So
Yeah.
Nick can get your information and get back with you on the
Okay.
appropriate procedures.
Okay, great.
That sound good?
Yeah, okay, cool.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for items on the agenda? Okay, since no one's coming forward, we will close the public comment and move on to the next item, which is proclamations and presentations. Tonight, we have the honor of providing a proclamation recognizing National Library Week in the city of Clawson. Whereas proclamation recognizing April 23rd to 29th as a National Library Week. Whereas libraries provide the opportunity for everyone to pursue their passions and engage in lifelong learning, allowing them to live their best life. Whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. Whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure equality of access for all. Whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, continually expanding their collections, services, and partnerships. Whereas libraries play a critical role in the economic vitality of communities by providing internet and technological access, literacy skills, and support for job seekers, small businesses, and entrepreneurs. Whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. Whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. Whereas librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Clawson proclaim National Library Week, April 23rd through 29th, 2023. This week, we encourage all residents to connect with their library by visiting online or in person to access the available resources. Jenny Ganrod, our wonderful librarian, was not able to be here tonight, so we're not able to give this to her, but I think we could all, anyone in the community who's ever been to the library or sat in this room and seen any part of our library, not only Jenny, but her staff, her volunteers, the Friends of the Library, they are all passionate, extremely passionate about that little gem of a library that we have here in Clawson. And it's something, if you haven't visited or if you haven't yet supported, there's plenty of opportunities. Check them out. And you can also buy a super sweet tote bag for $11, I think. And there's an event coming up on the May 20-something at the library, Friends of the Blair Memorial Library, a little bazaar thing, so check that out too. Many ways to support them, in addition to going in and getting your books or getting your books online. So always really happy to support our Clawson resources and our Clawson people who work so hard for all of us and our neighboring communities. So next thing we're going to do is talk about consideration of approving the following consent agenda. Item A would be minutes of the regular city council meeting held on Tuesday, April 4th, 2023 as presented. Item B, minutes of the special city council meeting held on Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 as presented. And item C, a list of bills in the amount of $638,895.82. Would someone like to
Madam Mayor,
make a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Thank you.
Mayor Milan,
Yes?
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Tinlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Great, so we have approved our consent agenda, and we'll move on to item number 9, which is new business. The first item from number 9 would be consideration of the submission of the City of Clawson draft fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. Mr. Raker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Per the City Charter, Section 6.07, Annual Budget Preparation Contents, quote, "At the second regular meeting in April of each year, the city manager or city clerk, in the absence of the city manager, shall submit to the council a budget of all income and expenditures of the city for the ensuing year." This did not occur in at least the last 2 years. Building on the experience of the previous year, this administration is meeting the requirements of the charter with tonight's draft budget submission. A brief overview of the budget will be presented for the general public's awareness. Budget workshops are scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday, the 19th at 7 p.m., Wednesday, May 3rd at 7 p.m., and Thursday, May 4th at 7 p.m. Per City Charter, Section 6.08, Annual Appropriations Resolution, Tax Levy Limitation, quote, "At the second meeting of the City Council in May of each year, the City Council shall pass an annual appropriation resolution which shall be based on the budget submitted by the manager as approved or amended by the council." End quote. That date for this year is May 16th, 2023.
Someone like to make a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move to receive and file to submit a City of Clawson's draft budget for the 2023-2024 draft budget.
Support.
Want to add draft in there?
Yeah, sir.
All right. All right.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sampson,
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Tinlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. Thank you. We have now moved to receive and file the submitted City of Clawson draft fiscal year 2023-24 budget. We're going to move on to the next item, which is consideration of a proposal from VC3, formerly IT Right, for the installation of a new city server. Nick, are you doing that?
Yeah, I can
Thank you.
cover that. So the city entered into a service agreement with VC3, formerly IT Right, in June of 2022. As our provider for information technology services, they are routinely monitoring the status of our network security and IT infrastructure. The city currently has a 2012 server, and we are due for an upgrade by October of this year. Due to the age of our server, we are recommending the approval of this purchase via VC3. In an effort to better illustrate the steps VC3 has taken and intends to take to help secure our network, they have prepared a brief presentation for the council to discuss the importance of this upgrade and also future projects that we will need to undertake in the near future. We have Steve from VC3 present virtually to provide that presentation and also answer any questions the council may have. And staff is also present as well.
Oh, there it goes. Hi there. Can you hear me, folks?
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi. Thank you, Nick, for that introduction. My name is Steve Schenk. I'm a VCIO, or Virtual Chief Information Officer with VC3, filling in for Tom Conway, who I'm sure many of you have met. He's your primary contact. And was just unable to join you tonight, so I'm pitching in for him. We just got a real short overview of first just the change from IT Right to VC3, just what improvements we've seen and expect to see with that, and then we'll talk about some things that have happened in the past year or so, and then future, looking towards the future. So let me see if I can share my screen well here. Go at that. Okay, how's that look?
Great.
Okay, good. All right, so first of all, IT Right was acquired by VC3 a little over a year ago. And while VC3 is headquartered in South Carolina and has a presence in 38 states and primarily working in the government sector, here in Michigan, we retained the same leadership, nearly all the staff, and the same office locally in Bath, Michigan. So that is very important, to retain that stability there. With the additional resources with VC3 that they brought to the table, we've been able to add a number of security additions, including a security operations center, which is a place where, as we're monitoring all the networks for all of our clients, and including yours, if there are any security events, then that center is notified immediately, and steps are taken to remediate, some automated, some with human intervention, to shut down the attack, if you will, or any security incident. We've also added a 24/7 help desk that, for the folks in the office, maybe that's not a big deal, but I'm sure for your emergency services folks that could come in quite handy. We've added what we call an FCR team, which is a first call resolution team, in order to get your most common questions and issues answered faster. So the person that answers the call is trained on about 70 or 75 most common issues, and their goal is to resolve those issues within 15 minutes, so you folks can go back to work. And we found that is successful. There's some training for each network as they take that on, but we're pretty pleased with those results. And also, by being a larger company, we have a wider talent pool for support. So while we have our on-site folks and the folks that work local to Michigan, there's a lot of stuff that can be done remotely. So by being able to look around the country, or in fact internationally, we have a presence in Canada as well, we can find the best talent to support you. So that's kind of what's different from IT Right being a smaller local company to now being an international company. But more focused on what's happening at the City of Clawson in the last year or so. We implemented a firewall and remote access project. We installed a next generation Sonic Wall as the brand of the device. That was last December, which provided better security, better reliability, and more ease of management, both for ourselves and for your team there. We're in the middle of a PC refresh for the billing department. The installation is scheduled for May 4th, so that's coming right around the corner. We've continually worked on improvements to security since we partnered up. Some of the things that you may have seen, we've updated the password policies, the PC locking policy. We've updated equipment. We're able to monitor the patching on the devices. Our antivirus product, they don't really call it antivirus anymore, they call it EDR. But that's called SentinelOne, and that's got some AI components, so it recognizes not just, oh, this particular file might be malicious, but, oh, this behavior is malicious. So it's pretty good stuff, and that's something that we continually work to improve. And then network standardization is a big deal. It makes your lives easier. It makes our lives easier to support that network. And that happens both on a formal and an informal basis. Every time one of our techs is on site, we ask them to just sort of look around and see if there's anything that pops out. And we did see a couple of things with during the implementation of the router project that could have been done a little better, that were just sort of there and historical. And we just cleaned a bunch of that up recently on March 15th. So moving forward to 2023 and 2024, the primary one, the big one is the server infrastructure project that Nick alluded to. And again, like in so many things with IT these days, in particular, security is the primary driver. The software on which those servers is running is reaching end of life this fall, and so it's no longer supported not only for patches, for bugs in the software, but also for security. And that's just a risk that we wouldn't ask anyone to take. Other benefits along with that include higher performing hardware than what is currently in place, and then higher performing, more modern software. The software is over 10 years newer. And that sort of gives us a stable platform to jump from and to leverage further improvements in your network going forward. Another item that VC3 brings to the table is some structured audits that we're able to provide. And we do those once a year each for the infrastructure and then for security. So the infrastructure audit is scheduled for Q3 of this year, where we come on in and review all of your infrastructure, all the different devices for performance, security, and support. And we use industry and VC3 best practices and work to standardize your network. And then similarly, for the security audit, we look at the entire security posture using best practices and standards. And security, sometimes you'll hear the TSA talk about layers, so having a bunch of different security implementations, each one can catch a lot of things, but not everything. But as you add layers, it gets harder and harder for bad actors to access anything within your network. We're working with Nick as a next step, once the servers are in place, to then migrate to the Office 365 email platform. And that, depending on timing and whatnot, will take place either late this year or early in 24. PC replacements are sort of an ongoing situation, and those typically we work, just within your budget framework and set typically a 5-year or so refresh cycle. So, each year maybe 20% of the PCs are getting cycled out. Sometimes it's a little longer, sometimes it's a little shorter, depending on the realities of your environment. It's important for us to work with the City of Clawson as a trusted partner in your technology operations. We really don't look to remain just a vendor, and we want to remain good stewards of your taxpayer dollars and other resources. So with that, we'll leverage what existing technology is in place to build upon and continue to improve as things change. And to that end, Tom and Nick will work together building budgets and an IT roadmap going out from 3 to 5 years. And that allows us to, just be more predictable in budgeting. We know that 5 years from now, this set of equipment is going to be a candidate for replacement. And so by helping you plan that, it just makes, limits the number of surprises that are out there. So that's kind of that. Primarily, the server project is the first step in that, and the security is the driver for that. So with that, thank you. Are there any questions?
I have questions, but for Mr. Riker. Let's just-
Just real quick on the, you said the server has a 5-year lifespan? Is that what you just mentioned?
No, I was talking about workstations typically.
Workstations,
We'll have a
okay.
5-year lifespan. Servers are a little longer, 7, maybe 8 years.
7, 8 years, okay.
Yeah.
I'll go. All right. My questions are, what did you have scheduled for May 4th?
Pardon me?
What's scheduled for May 4th?
We are replacing the workstations in the building department.
Right. All right. When I read your explanation, it's true. In June of '22, we picked IT right, as our service agreement. And part of that was supposed to be, because we had vendors that never visited the site. So we didn't know what we needed to replace. The statement from administration back then was, we're going to bring in IT right. They're going to tell us what we need to fix. When we get to that point of buying things, we'll bid them out. I don't see us bidding them out. This is 17. We've already spent 8. We're getting up, pretty close, 30,000. And when we started adding all these things up, I had said back then it's going to be 50, 60,000 more. And I can see that we're piecemealing this thing again. This $17,000 is needed to be, by our charter, needs to be bid out. It's IT was for services. They won the contract. They're telling us what to replace. That's good. They did a good job of that. But now we need to take whatever they think we need. You need to replace your servers, your laptops, and we need to bid all that out to get the best price on this. Not bringing a company that said, because I was worried when we did this, that's a blank check for somebody for a couple $100,000. I can't service your thing unless you change all this stuff. Well, now we're going to change everything, but and I still like IT right, or the new name, but now we need to bid all that out, and they can be one of the bidders. I'm not saying they can't. There's a lot of companies that will bid out this. So I think it's a little early right now. I think we need to bid it out.
Yes, sir.
To the city attorney, is that accurate what the council member is saying as far as that we are required to bid it out?
We have as Councilmember Sampson mentioned it, I'm trying to come up with a term. We do have a provision in the charter that says that if 4 members of council, regardless of whether there is a requirement for a bid or not, if 4 members of council wish to set aside bidding and just go for whatever contractor or contract we have, they can do so.
But it has to be 4.
I'm sorry?
It has to be 4 members.
Yes, sir. Yes.
But if we don't get 4 members, then it has to be bid.
You're parsing out, it depends on, this is not a new contract as I'm understanding.
When we voted on the contract in June, it was for services because nobody knew what we needed. And I said, we could go crazy, we could get somebody in there and they'll tell us 300,000, and then they can keep you safe. And I said at that time, and even Mr. Riker said we'd bid out to pieces when they finally figured out what we needed to replace. We're now to that point and we're not bidding it. And, that's not there's a ton of people that can bid out IT. So, like I said, they can be part of it. Let's see who gives the best bid on it. But all of it. We've now had a firewall, and now we're going to do the servers. And is this bid take care of the backup servers or just the main servers? Where's our backup? Is it still sitting in a box in the library, or it needs to lay all that out, because all that's going to cost $10,000-$20,000 at a shot. So we're going to shoot this thing way up if we keep playing one at a time. Let's get a great design, bid to great design, and let's put it in. Because May 4th we're adding laptops. Will they work with? Eventually, we're going to get it to a point where we're only going to use a certain laptop because it's their favorite one, and all the other companies want to do something else. We need to look at this right and say, this is our best bid on all this work. This is our bid. This is the kind of laptops we want. This is the kind of backup servers we want. This is a place we're going to put our backup servers, because transport over to the backup is going to cost money too. So this is not time to start, to continue piecemealing it. It's time to stop the piecemealing and do one big one.
So, to the council member's point, if I may. So when this was brought up, when we brought this back, and IT Right honored their original bid, it was, to your point, you said you wanted to, hey, get a whole assessment of all this information, of all the stuff that's needed, and we'll start bidding it out. We had security issues with the firewall that we had to address immediately.
And I gave in on that one because of that.
Okay, and to the point of, if we start piecing it out, we'll start piecing it out by bidding each piece out, and then we will have to manage the warranty and maintenance records of all this stuff. Having it under one umbrella, granted, we're not having the all-inclusive, this is the entire network. I think spreading it out over multiple fiscal years would probably be more beneficial, but we're doing what we can right now with what needs to be done right now with our service providers' capabilities. And so I would diplomatically disagree with you that we're piecemealing it out this way. I think going in that direction does a piecemealing, and we lose the administrative control and oversight that we have with going with the service provider.
Administrative part and the oversight of the equipment can all be bid out at one time. In fact, if they bid on it, they can bid it all at one. And you put it as part of your bid is, the bid will say, for them, they work with themselves. For other people, they bid it out to work with them because they're gonna do the day-to-day tweaking. They'll tweak it day-to-day.
Well, and they do a lot of the day-to-day monitoring with the systems that we have, and so by allowing them to install these items, it gives them greater continuity because they're using items that they're comfortable with and familiar with.
Right.
And so we are saving time and resources by, going with VC3 to install these projects.
But we're still not getting the best price on the equipment.
I think you have a point, but I think I have a counterpoint to that, where you think you're going to save money on packaging this all out or bidding it out. If we piecemeal this out, which you don't want to do, but if you say, go back to the drawing board and we need this sooner rather than later, we're back to managing the warranty, managing the configuration, and we're losing the actual service provision that we're paying for because we have VC3, and we're marginalizing them by putting it out for bid, the service component.
And they're marginalizing us by not allowing us to get the best price.
So what,
I mean, you're possibly not.
We haven't asked them. They might just go ahead and, if we bid out the equipment they asked for, I'm sure they'll manage the equipment they asked for. We're taking their recommendation and bidding their recommendation out. I'm sure they'll bid on it. I'm sure other people bid on it. It's just a matter of we got to work out the details when whoever wins to work the two groups together.
so is there already a list, apparently there's a list of items that we want to address within our system? So if they have that, could they put together specifications of minimum capabilities of equipment that they would want to integrate into our current system? And then it could go to bid with that information, and then it would be similar to them coming on board to an existing client and assuming whatever they have. And if they're most likely going to win the bid, right? Like they know what they're doing, they're gonna wanna maintain customer, and there's a little flexibility in product, but not a huge amount of product if you maintain a profit margin. I'm not trying to belabor this anyways, but in order to address his concern, Councilmember Sampson's concern about piecing things out, I mean, you guys don't want to piece it out. It's laborious and harder to grasp everything all at once. It's much better to have a plan and plot it out at a certain time, which is, I'm assuming, is what you guys are working on.
And you made a great point here, and I never even thought of it. If they were coming after we got this done, they took over our equipment. When we get it, if we do buy from somebody else, the same thing's going to happen. They'll just take over our equipment. They might have to adjust their costs, but they'll have a reason why. You added more of these, and we never had any of them. There'll be reasons why they add to their service agreement. But I really believe that we need to bid this. Bid it is a big project.
Councilmember Tinley?
Yeah, I have a question actually for BC3. How common is it to have a service contract with a government body, but then when you're looking at changing infrastructure, equipment, et cetera, that's bidded out?
It certainly happens. It's usually pretty rare as we develop the relationship as a trusted partner. You know, the parts lists and whatnot and the makes and model of the servers are provided in the original quote. And so, you know, you're certainly more than welcome to shop for a similar item. But we're confident that our hardware prices are competitive with what's out there. And, you know, the labor is the labor. It takes a certain amount of time to do the work, so.
Then my second part of the question is, so then it sounds like the terms and conditions of the existing service contract will cover that. If we buy equipment from other companies, that your service contracts will still cover that in the current contract?
Yeah, we would support the equipment as long as it was within the specifications that we had provided. There may be some additional labor if there's some discovery or some other items, but that would be nominal typically. You know, just to either familiarize ourselves with it or, you know, manage warranty for devices that we didn't sell, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So the item before us tonight is just the quote for the server and the tower, right? So we could go ahead and approve this, if everyone's agreeable, for the $17,057.83. And then moving forward, if there's interest, we could have Nick can assemble that list of information of products that you want to address in the upcoming future. I'm not trying to make work for anyone, but if it really is a concern for going out to bid, then we look at going out to bid for future items, but we address this one now and move on with it.
Well, I think this needs to be addressed now, and these are big ticket items. This is the main start.
Yeah, I'm not a tech person, but we did recently purchase a server for we didn't get that price, I can tell you that, and we paid a considerable amount more. And I don't know, you know, I'm not comparing apples to apples or anything because I'm not tech. I don't even care about dollars, to be honest, but I do know that that price for a server to operate a small government has to be a fair deal, if not a decent one.
But
I don't think he's gouging us, is my
No, I ain't saying that
words.
either, but
I can assure you.
Thank you.
what I'm saying is they don't have the backups. There's a lot of stuff they don't have. We need to bid to say, how's this going to work with all the backups or any?
Yeah.
You know, there's no.
If I can add just an answer to that, as part of our standard contract with all of our clients, backups of all the servers are included. So whether you've got the older servers, we're backing them up nightly today, and any new servers, any new servers that are added to your network, the backup of all of them is included in your existing contract.
Don't we have on-site backups over the library?
I believe it's a mix of on-site and off-site backup.
And that's the stuff that all needs to be put into the big package to work with this server here, to say, will the server work good with this server? What kind of transport system are you using over to the library?
I don't know offhand,
Yeah,
to be honest.
we need to know what kind of transport we're going to take over there, because that could be a fiber optic system. That could be a lot of money then.
If there are any costs, either they're already assumed within our contract, or you're already paying them, and I imagine it's the former,
The equipment.
that it's built into the contract.
To
So
replace the equipment with more modern equipment, because I'm sure our backups aren't modern. So they're probably the same age as the server.
Prior to coming on board, prior to us entering into an agreement with your company, you did conduct a rather extensive review of our operations and the equipment that we currently have, so that you knew that you could operate it
I believe it.
and connect things together. And in all fairness, he would not be suggesting this server if it wasn't working with what we have now and then capable on building for the future.
Remember when they got the service contract, they hadn't been here on site. Remember, we had some came on site, some didn't. And that's what my complaint was, if you're never on site, How do you know it's a contained environmental cabinet, or is it just like what we had, an open cabinet that can be caught with a mop? It was all that stuff. I says, the first guys like him come in and say, we used to call it the sweeper. A sweeper can come by, and if there's wires hanging out, they got to be closed where they can't get to it with a mop. Has anybody looked at all them? And I know some of the service we had out there where they can be taken out with a bucket of water or with a mop, break a cable.
So it sounds like,
So it's time to do that big bid on everything and do it one time and not piecemeal this, because we've already piecemealed the firewall, and I was okay with that because that was security. Now we're picking a server and saying, this is the server we're going to use.
go ahead,
Other
Mr.
people
Riker.
may have other
Piece of
things.
information here. Steve, isn't there a significant lead time on the acquisition of the server?
Yes.
That is a key component to this conversation that we should have shared earlier. So that lead time is approximately, is it?
Well, for the equipment itself, it can be 30 or 40 days. Just the new world we live in with supply chain issues, and then there's a whole bunch of communities just like yours all over the country that, and particularly in Michigan, that are in the same boat, and they're racing against this October clock, and we can commit to getting that done for you. In time, for that support to end from Microsoft. They set that date. But yeah, the clock is ticking to get us there.
Can you elaborate on what that is?
The actual acquisition of the product, correct?
Well, no, I'm saying what he's talking about for Microsoft's lack of support that's ending in
Product
October.
ending.
So our server is from 2012.
Yep.
And so in October, that is when the lifespan of that server essentially ends.
Okay.
And it's operational, but the security is nowhere near what we should have it be.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the timeline we're up against.
Okay.
So can it limp along? Sure. Will it be exposed and be porous? Absolutely.
yeah.
That's what we're trying to avoid.
Okay.
And so, again,
Steve.
so Steve was
Yes.
not part of our conversations with Tom, and I will share a little bit of so VC3 has gone through some growing pains, and we have worked with them through their growing pains. And I have had this conversation with Tom, who you're pinch hitting for tonight, about getting this full assessment of hardware that we need. And I'm telling you now in front of the public and in front of this elected body, you guys have got to get it together, okay? Because I knew this was going to come down. We have a critical piece of infrastructure that needs to be replaced, but I've been challenging, our relationship has been challenging, but I have been committed to working with you because service provision has been a challenge everywhere, and it's building that relationship, which you spoke to, which is important. And I'm going to ask this elected body to please support this, but the next time anything from VC3 comes forward, it has to be that entire laundry list.
Sure.
How long would it take them to do a
Let's,
Absolutely.
How long would it take you to do a laundry list right now?
So I will say that Steve is not our dedicated VCIO, and our dedicated individual is at a conference, so he's not as well versed on Clausen as Tom would be, who's here. So Steve was just here to provide that presentation and answer questions as possible. So for specifics like that.
If the delivery date's 30, 40 days, that's nothing. What I'd like to know is how long would it take us to get a complete laundry list? If that takes 6, 7 months, no. But if it's only
No,
going to take.
they've
a few-
been
if it's
here.
only- Excuse me, if it's only going to take a few weeks to get it, then we get it, and then we come back and bid the whole thing out at one time, and we're not piecemealing this thing, because that's what I said when we did the firewall. We're going to keep piecemealing it, and it's going to hit in the 200,000s, and we're going to find pieces that don't work with other pieces, or we're going to have to buy another piece of equipment to make that piece of equipment work with this piece of equipment. And I know that from experience, so I'd like to see the whole bid.
Mr. Ricker,
All the
where does the bigger picture of our IT needs fit into our budgeting, since we're hitting budgeting season?
Well, it'll span across the 2 fiscal years for sure. So the idea was to address this in this fiscal year. So in order to build on this good faith, and I mean, you can hear the tone in my voice, I'm not happy with VC3, all right? And I've had this conversation with Tom, and I knew this conversation was coming just because of the history of this whole circumstance here. But this is the, I didn't want to have to do this, but apparently I do. So if we can get this piece across the goal line, and we can get this, and we'll have at the next regular meeting, we can give an update as to when VC3 is going to pitch as far as the laundry list, but we want to get this across the goal line and build on this relationship and move forward.
Absolutely. I can commit to that, and I'll be talking with Tom first thing in the morning, and we will get that done for you.
Doing this sets a standard for the server they're using. Everything will be built from that standard. If we give everybody a clean slate, we may find other servers that would work just as well or better, and we can look at it and have them come give us the best. Right now is not the time to buy another part. That's what we're doing. You know, we all know we want a new car, and somebody's bringing Chevy tires for a Plymouth frame, so it now needs to be bid out. And we know that they said they can get a list. Let's wait let's give them 2 weeks to put together a list. They've looked at our stuff. They obviously know where everything is, so it'd be a matter of somebody putting together a list of, pretty comprehensive list of, this is pretty much everything you're going to need to do by the end of your he wants 2 years, by the end of your 2 years. And then say, first we put a server on, then we do the backup, and then we do the, we put the transport in and the backup, and then we do, give us how you're going to put it together for the next 2 years, and see which group that bids on it comes out with the best date and the best cost, and not keep piecemealing this thing.
So the server itself, again, not technologically brilliant, the server itself doesn't really dictate all the other parts that we will utilize within our organization. The server is what everything will feed into, and we don't really have to worry about us getting laptops that don't configure with the server, or or other boxes that have data in them. Isn't that correct? Like, that's just like a main portion that everything feeds through. That's where all of our saving materials go. That's our history and our future and all that kind of stuff. But the problem that you're posing, if that's real, I want to know, but I don't think it's something we really need to be concerned about something not building on a server. Is that correct? Steve, you're the technical whiz.
Yes, Mayor. It's manufacturers of both the hardware, your Dells and your Lenovo's and whatnot, and as well as Microsoft, and that they're heavily invested in making sure that all their gear is interoperable and that it all works with each other. So for any vendor that would say, hey, here's this new great device, and it doesn't work with all these things you already have, that doesn't make much business sense, and I doubt that they would ever do that.
And I'll give it to, they make everything interoperable, but you may end up buying another card, certain cable, they all have their specifications. Yeah, you can put that on mine, but it takes another $50 to hook it to it, or it takes another $1,000 to hook it to it. That's why I'm saying you start with something and have each one of them individuals say, I'm going to use this server, I'm going to use these laptops, because I can get rid of all these other cards. I'm going to transport it this way because I can do that with this. It's cheaper. But if you start putting things in, they have to match. So they have to add the cards, they have to add the equipment as we go to make things work together. And that's where the problem is.
So, Mr. Raker, my only concern about all of this, I would say, let's do this, but I do have a slight concern that you're concerned with this company. And even for an expenditure of $17,000
Yes.
for something that we're going to build on for the future, I'm not concerned about the server itself. I don't think that's problematic, but I am concerned about your concern about a relationship. And then do we want to do we want to jump, like, what's the impetus that we need to act today? If you have concerns overall, are we just purchasing
Because
an
we're
item from a
Go ahead, I'm
firm?
sorry. I said, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, that's my question. Are we just purchasing the item from
No,
them because we need it right now, or?
we do need it just because my information that I was of the understanding that the acquisition was going to take much closer from now until almost leading up to the actual expiration of the server. So if that is not correct, pardon me, I've shared it with Tom, I've shared it with Ken, like shortly after IT Right, we signed the contract with IT Right, VC3 acquired them, and we were noticing, challenges with service provision. However, we're also dealing with service provision in a lot of industries, and so we've worked on a relationship with Tom, and that's why I wish he was here, and also Ken, our local provider. And I think we're making great progress. We put in a lot of time and shoe leather for them to work out a lot of the bugs and issues in their merge of the company. And so we grew with them through that. It was just the circumstances of just their business decisions. And so I think we're in a good place, but he needs to share this with Tom, or Tom can watch this video. I mean, you are cued in. This is exactly they need to perform, and I think they can. It's just that they need to answer the mail on this, and I'm not at all surprised by Councilmember Sampson's concern about, because I had this conversation with him, and I'm about working with the circumstances as they unfold, and this would be the last time, though. I mean, I don't think we're at a point of, I want to just throw out the baby with the bathwater, but I think that this is I've taken it to the highest level possible, and I'm committed to working with you. I'm hoping that council will continue to be working with you, and I'm pretty confident that you will come back and tell Tom, like, we need to start giving the white glove treatment to Clausen, because this is where we're at.
So in saying all of
That's what you
that, are you saying that you have full confidence in this company and their capabilities to deliver for the future?
I believe they can. I mean, they've been responsive and they have improved. They've communicated with us with their challenges, and their challenges have been understandable. And so with that helps build a relationship. But we're at a point, and the councilman has a point. We had this discussion about getting these things together, but with lead time and acquisition and security exposures, that's why we bought the firewall. That's why we're doing the server right now. But it needs to get more in line with what we brief council, like sooner rather than later.
So would a 2-week delay to get that information that Councilmember Sampson is requesting together impact
I fear it's
this?
just going to lead to additional delays. And so,
If we commit as a body to let you bring that information before us, Steve, if you can pull that off, and then the next meeting we make an absolute decision, but, we have to be sensitive to the fact that you do have a time crunch, but we do have several months between now and then.
He just said it was 30, 40-day delivery time. So that's not big in the electronics world.
Right. Well, if I can elaborate on the 30 to 40 days, that would be to get the equipment in if everything hits well. There's already 126 servers across our population that are in line to be implemented and upgraded across the state. So in that, each week there's more that are getting in line. So, and that's just to provide you, information about our backlog. It's not to scare you into, getting in line tonight.
So
Well, that white glove treatment that Mr. Raker just spoke about might jump us up a little bit.
when could you have it installed? A year from now?
No, it would be less than a year from now. We're committed to having them all finished by October 10th, which is the day that Microsoft support ends.
If we were to
All 120?
approve your contract for this item, can we, would you honor a drop dead date to have it installed? Should we create a drop dead date to have it installed?
I believe we can do that, yeah, by October 10th for sure, yes.
I'm thinking maybe not October 10th. I'm
Okay, so
thinking
you-
we might want to come earlier so that we're not pushing the button. Otherwise, there's no need to ask for a drop dead date.
Yeah,
Unless
I
we really
understand.
like October 10th, but I'm thinking that's not really where we were going.
Well, to your point, they will be back in front of us to discuss the other components of the upgrades system-wide. So, and I apologize to council to air my frustrations, but I'm being transparent with you. I've been transparent with VC3, and now the entire Clausen community knows about it.
That's good. We appreciate your passion and commitment. Councilmember Tinlin, I know you've been chomping.
No, I just, I'm a time guy, so it's actually 5 months and 3 weeks before that Microsoft patch is no more longer support for security, right? So it's not 6 or 7 months, it's 5 months, 3 weeks. So same question, can you get it done? And if we do delay this, that's going to, again, take that timing away, so is it doable?
Where'd you get that date from?
Microsoft website.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'm not sure what Windows is on that server, I'm just curious. Like Windows 7, 8?
Yeah, 7.
Windows Server 2012.
Okay, yep. Yep.
Which one is it?
2012.
Windows Server 2012.
Okay, where are we? Do we have a motion? Or-
Just, if I may, so just looking at the labor portion of it, I don't mean to nitpick at this, but you've got 32 as a quantity for labor. So looking at that, I assume that's hours, 32 given our work week, that would gives us about 6 to 7 weeks of labor for that. Is that accurate, or?
I'd have to stand by the, what's in the quote.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing too, I don't know if this is standard for IT quotes, but terms net 15 seems awfully in favor of them for that. I don't know if that's something that they've had on previous contracts. I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, in my experience, IT Right and VC3 has been pretty lenient on terms, and they're happy to work with you on that, so.
All right, and
That wouldn't be an issue.
the other nitpicky thing was quotes are subject to availability. Prices may vary if substitutions become necessary. So the 17,057 and 83 cents and change looks like that is not hard fast based off of what your comments are on the quote. Is that an accurate statement, or?
Typically, our distributors will hold prices for 30 days, and so that's their clock. And as I'm sure you understand, with supply chain, that's kind of volatile. So 30 days these days is a decent hold to have for that pricing.
And then you were,
It rarely changes much, but it does change.
Okay. On the other one, you mentioned, my previous question was on the 7 to 8 year lifespan. And looking at some of these, you've got warranty for 5-year advanced part replacement. Is that 5 years for everything, or is that just on hard components?
That would be for the hardware, yeah. Yeah, the software wouldn't have any sort of replacement warranty. They
all right.
would patch that, yeah.
All right, so we're looking at 5 years, again, at upgrading a server, potentially. All right. So, okay.
Is that the new standard, Steve?
Typically, what we're seeing more people do in 5 to 7 years, I believe it's going to be even more likely, is that data moves up to the cloud, either Microsoft's or somebody else's. So you eliminate the need for hardware at your site at all. So,
How soon will that happen?
for forward-looking companies, mostly in the private sector, it's happening today, last year. For more conservative operations, it's starting to get some adoption, yeah. Because it eliminates your capital costs, every 5 to 7 years, you got to go to the well and, find $20,000. So this way, it shifts that to an operating cost year to year. That money is paid to Microsoft to host that data for you. The security problems have all been worked out with that, and that's a conversation we can have down the road a little bit with Nick as far as when that's a proper time to even start considering that. But for this iteration, for the next 5 to 7 years, for you folks, we believe that hardware servers on site make the most sense.
Okay, so what you're saying is that potentially, and now it sounds like it's likely that we could move to a cloud within that 5-year timeframe by the time that this warranty would expire for what we're going to install.
Exactly, yeah. I would take that gentleman's bet that this is the last file server that you're going to buy. Yeah.
Why are we looking to go into the cloud now? Why didn't you look going into the cloud right now for us?
You have to move you have to do all your software. Everything has to be moved to like Microsoft 365.
I'm very well aware of that.
No, I'm just saying it's time consuming, right? And you kind of have to plot that out.
Well, he's going to move the software to a new server anyway.
Yeah, that's a big project, and sometimes it depends on what vertical market items and products you're using. Like BSNA, for example, they have a BSNA cloud solution, but they've got about a 2-year backlog on getting clients moved up into that. So even if we were ready to go for you, and I believe you use BSNA, but I'm not sure, that would be a roadblock for now. And there's other, vertical market software, sector-specific software that, sometimes those companies are moving along well with the rest of technology. Sometimes they lag a bit. So that's a big project. Moving everything to the cloud is a big project.
That brings another question up that maybe we want a complete bid and we also want a roadmap to where we want to go in 10 years or 5 years. Do we want to be on the cloud? Do we work towards that? Do we buy equipment that works towards the cloud? Or do we keep piecemealing it now and pay for everything in 5 years? Pay it all again? Or have some equipment that might be beneficial to get on the cloud? We don't even know we want to go there. So a lot of unanswered questions. I still believe that I won't vote unless we have a bid. That's where Mr. Rennis, did you happen to find in the charter that, do we need to, it's over
It's 4 votes, yes.
4 votes, okay.
It is 4 votes. It's section 2.208, power of council, under the section that deals with bidding. 4 votes can dispense with competitive bidding.
Yeah, what's the limit?
There's no limit.
What's the limit that we have to do to 4 votes? There's a limit where they can just buy anything they want. And there's a limit where we have to.
$1,000 amount is what you're talking
Over the $1,000 amount.
But the power of council is unlimited as far as dispensing competitive bidding.
So right now, we should have bids, or 4 of us has to say, we don't care about bidding.
Correct.
Right, that's what I thought.
Councilwoman Anderson, you've been so quiet.
Well, I do have one concern. I'm sure he can probably get the laundry list together in 2 weeks. But getting it all out to bid will take even more time beyond that.
I think there's,
So we're on a clock.
Put a short clock on it.
That might be a long laundry list.
Councilwoman
About 100
Anderson.
people out there.
Mr. Baker.
I'm trying to build on this relationship with VC3, and I'm asking for council's cooperation. This one last time, Steve, take it back to Tom.
Absolutely.
I think that's what we said when we bought the server and when we bought IT. And to begin with, you said you wanted to work with them, and now we're.
Councilmember, I've conceded to the
and I can-
inaccuracies of where what you've said and what is being done now. I've made that very clear.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I thought we skipped it. Yeah. So let's call, unless anyone has anything riveting that's not already been discussed, why don't we call for a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move the proposal from VC3 for the installation of the new city server in the amount of $17,057.83 be approved as presented.
I'll support.
Any more discussion?
Call, please.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Tinlin.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson. That passes.
So we have just agreed to honor this quote for a new server, and then would anyone like to, do we need to make a motion to get that additional information to us? Is someone comfortable doing that, or we're just going to let it go?
Believe me, I think they've
Got
gotten
the
the
message?
message very loud and clear.
Thank you.
We've got it. I will definitely work with Tom, and we'll get that information to you. So thank you, Mr. Rickard.
One by one would be nice.
I will keep the council appraised, and
Okay.
BC3 is definitely on my radar.
Steve, thank you so much for being with us tonight and addressing our concerns. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you want. They are so fun, right? Audience participation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and council members all. I appreciate your time and your business and your partnership. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Bye.
Is anyone ready to move on? Or would you like to talk IT some more? We will move on to something fun. Next item on our agenda is consideration of a special event request from the Clausen 4th of July Committee to conduct their annual events.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I move the special event request by the city, by Clausen 4th of July Committee to conduct their annual events celebrating the 4th of July to be approved as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have some.
I'll bring them.
Pardon me?
Now they can come up and talk.
They can come up and talk. They, being Mr. Paquette, Mike Paquette
I
and
believe you guys
Pam
sit there all night for
Weaver,
nothing.
are welcome to come up and speak.
It'll be a tough act to follow.
Tell us what really spectacular things you have coming up for us outside of the United We Sparkle theme. Who doesn't love to sparkle?
Right,
Right?
exactly. Well, for us, we did meet with the members of the city and hammered out some things that needed to be talked about, and particularly the hours and where all of the units are going to be going and the traffic. And I hope that we've definitely come to a good agreement upon that. So at this time, this is our 90th year of doing this. So it's actually quite a situation that's been going on in Clausen, so it's very, very nice to do. I'll just give you the dates of things that are going on. I know you guys have it in front of you, but our audience out there does not at this point, which we'll have it on our website, which will be up and running here pretty quick. So starting with Sunday, June 25th, we have the Freedom Runs, and that's in Clausen City Park, as well as they have a little free run around the park too for little kids to do. That's a 5K event sanctioned as well. Wednesday, the 28th of June is Concert in the Park, where they have it's a orchestra style concert that comes in, and ice cream social is also going on at the same time, or other food items that'll be going on. Saturday, July 1st, we have our little kid parade, starts over here at the high school and ends in the park. And at that point, they get their awards. We give them, we have food that they'll be getting. Mostly they want to get ice cream and popcorn and cotton candy is what they end up getting. We give them a ticket so that they can do that. Sunday, July 2nd, our carnival will start. The hours are 12 o'clock until 10 p.m. And we'll have all of our food concessions will be going on at the time, along with Wade Chills will be doing all of their, the big carnival that they had last year that you all got to see last year. And it was actually a pretty impressive carnival that they bring in. Of course, they're limited to the space because of our unit that we have. They have way many more rides and stuff, but they have to put in what they can for our section in our park. The arts and crafts will be going on Monday, July 3rd. As well as the carnival. Again, the hours will be from 12 to 10, and food concessions will all be going on. Concessions will be going on in the treat area, the park area, as well as there'll be music going on. Live bands will be starting around 3 o'clock on that day, as well as, of course, the arts and crafts. They do a good job over there as well. Tuesday, July 4th, starts off with the Firecracker Mile starts it. All of the fire engines come through and wake everybody up that isn't awake yet. And then following that will be the parade. And everything ends up back at the park. And we have our arts and crafts going on at the same time. Or, of course, the live music, hot dog, and cupcake eating contest, which I understand you guys want to be involved in all of that.
Hello?
Oh, sorry. Maybe my information's wrong.
No, we're in, right, you
Oh,
guys?
good, good. I like to hear that. And Clausen's and Troy have their fire department water battle going on. Food concessions will be going on, and the carnival hours will start a little earlier that day because the parade ends up at the park around 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11. And so they'll go until 10 o'clock, which at that point, the fireworks go off. They have an exact time that they start. I'm pretty sure it's like 10 o'clock or 10 o'clock. So at that point, of course, the rides will be, shutting down at that point. Lights will be shut off so we can actually enjoy all the awesome fireworks that this group puts on. So, anything I missed?
No, that's about it.
All right.
We're excited to do it again this year.
That's
Another-
wonderful.
Another great job, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last year was, as you know, it was like a last minute thing, and we asked you guys for permission, and it worked out really good. We had good security there. We had, to my knowledge, we had 0 issues last year. So it was very, very nice. Everything was put on really well. And we had a lot of people, as you know. If you were over there, there was a ton of people. So, any questions, please?
How can people help you?
Oh, wait.
Wow, there's gates. We will actually be manning gates on the 3rd and the 4th. So we're looking, of course, for trustworthy people that are going to be able to help us out. Parade, we're looking for
We need a lot of volunteers for the parade.
For the parade. Those
Okay,
are probably the two
who do they
main
call?
things.
Who do they
Pardon?
call, or who do they email?
There is, on our website, that's going to be up and running real quick. They'll be able to go on there and put their name in for the volunteers of all the
good.
different areas, for sure. The gates, I think, are not going to be an open volunteer. We want to make sure we're
Right.
handling a lot of money at that time.
Right.
So we're not going to have an open volunteer on that. We're going to be a little more selective on that. But the parade needs volunteers. We need help with the Freedom Run. Of course, Dave Thompson, he runs that.
registration
You got registration, there's a lot that goes on in a very compact time. But it's a lot of fun. At the end of the day, we've done it, like I said, I haven't done it for 90 years, but they've been
Feels
doing it
like
for
it.
90 years, and I've been doing it probably 30 years now. So I've gone through, I've seen a lot of change, which has been good. So,
Well, we appreciate your diligence in doing this for the community.
thank you.
It's
It
amazing.
definitely is for the community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No?
Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for consideration, of course.
Questions, concerns?
We should probably vote.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Councilmember Tinlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson?
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd?
Yes.
I'm shocked.
That we're going to celebrate 4th of July in Clawson? August, you've become so jaded. Okay, next up will be consideration of approving the special event request for the Alliance of Coalition for Healthy Communities to hold a family festival and 5K Shatter the Stigma Walk Run on June 3rd, 2023.
Madam Mayor, so move.
Support.
Would someone like to present on this?
I think they're here.
Yes. Hi. Jared and Erica? Welcome.
Hi, how are you guys?
Very well, thanks.
I'm Jared Gajos. I'm a board member with the Alliance. I'm also a municipal employee, director of HR for the city of Hazel Park. So, hello, sister city. How are you guys? This is our 6th annual Shatter the Stigma event, our 5K. We love hosting it, right? Not just because we get to see so many wonderful faces, but we get to share stories about substance abuse, loss, prevention, recovery support, all over Oakland County. We have 21 nonprofits, organizations that we get to oversee with the Alliance. And this is our time each year to come together and just talk and, get together and enjoy a little bit, run together. I mean, not run if you don't want to, but you can walk too. That's always fun. Walker. But we get to do it here in Clawson, which we are always grateful for. And last year was our first time post-COVID that we got to. It was a beautiful day. Thank you guys, all the municipal employees that got to help out. Thank you, Gina and Michelle, this year for helping us get our application together. But, you know, that's why we are asking again if you would allow us to host. We have so much to offer with this event and everything. Last year we had 208 participants. We're hoping for 250 this year. Last year, Sheriff Mike Bouchard came out and spoke some really amazing, you know, inspirational words for us about, you know, the importance of naloxone, what it can do for opiate addiction and overdoses and stuff, how police and fire see so much that we may not see. So this is what we do each day, every day. And so we're hoping again to host this again. So Erica is a resident here, so she has a couple words.
I think Jared covered it pretty well. I mean, so I'm the former board member, and I used to do what Jared does, and now we're handing it over to him. But it is a really important thing, and with Clawson being such a small community, and I live here, prior to COVID, we every month did family support meetings, and they were right here in this building. And it was shocking to me for such a small community how much it's impacted with addiction and how it's not really talked about. So one of the things we really like to highlight is this is about raising awareness and shattering the stigma. Obviously, the only other thing that I would like to add is that there will be a free Narcan training after the 5K. Anyone who comes will be trained on how to administer it and will walk out with a kit. So love to see the community support, and Clawson is amazing at that. We do notes on the doors to notify everyone when the race is, when people will be in front of their house, so watch out and be careful pulling out of your driveway. And so the people that sit out in their yards and that cheer on the runners, it's just really, it's a cool experience. And everyone on the Alliance who's not from Clawson, I am from Clawson, just is so impressed with how our community shows up to support that. We've always worked very well with the police department, who has come not only for the naloxone training, which they help us to facilitate, but also with leading out the event. So we're hopeful to do it again here this year, and thank you with our transitions post-COVID and helping us get this on the agenda in a timely fashion.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you for coming. We'll take roll call, please.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Anderson. I have to change my wording. Sorry.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Tinlin.
Yes.
Great, and we'll look forward to having the Alliance of Coalition for Healthy Communities Family Fun Festival, I threw in fun, and 5K, because you're having a 5K, it's gotta be fun, right, for someone. Shatter the Stigma Walk Run on June 3rd. So thank you for coming tonight, and we look forward to supporting your event. Thank you.
Warm up the track for you before the freedom run.
Keep the dust down, right? Good night. Next up is something so exciting, consideration of awarding the bid for the Clawson Police Department locker room renovations. I've been on council for 5 years now, and this has always been a conversation point, and it's so exciting to see that it's going to happen. Excuse me.
She's all choked up about the locker room.
I'm so, how do you say it? I'm
Clamped.
Yes, thank you. I can't even say that because I'm so that. Would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move the bid for the Clawson Police Department locker room renovations be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, Asher Associates, 3745 Horseshoe Drive, Troy, for total construction cost not to exceed $157,477.00.
Support.
Would anyone like to speak on this? It's good news.
Yes, Madam Mayor, please recall City Council approved the fiscal year 22-23 budget with the inclusion of the capital improvements project, renovation of the police department locker rooms. The current condition of the shower facilities is unsatisfactory and does not address shower facilities for female officers. The new configuration will renovate the current locker room areas and create 2 unisex hygiene suites equipped with showers, commodes, and vanities. The budget allocated $250,000 for this project. The lowest responsible bidder is Asher Associates with a base bid of $136,947 plus a 15% contingency of $20,500 as recommended by our engineers AEW for a total construction cost of $157,447. This does not include the cost of actual lockers. The city will purchase the lockers at a later date to avoid contractor markup for a cost savings to the city. Mr. Matt Burge of AEW is present to answer any questions about the project and award.
Good evening, Matt.
Good evening.
Thanks for joining us today.
I would like to correct the distinguished city manager in that the recommendation came from the architects, not the engineers. So,
Okay, gotcha. Pardon me.
Always the architects.
the engineers get all the glory most of the time. But yeah, I mean, everything he said was right on. The locker room configuration is not ideal. And the unisex facilities now will give you a lot better gender inclusivity, whether that's male, female, or maybe transgender sometime down the line. It doesn't matter who uses it, only one person's using those shower rooms at a time. So gives you a lot of good flexibility, and a lot of departments are going to those kind of configurations. Are there any questions from anybody on council that maybe is unclear on what's going on?
We're letting you off easy, no questions.
I'm a little jealous already. So.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Tinlin.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Yes.
Great, we're going to look forward to those locker room renovations. I'm sure the women will be extremely happy. We're going to move on to item 9F, which is continued discussion of establishing fiscal year 2023-2024 goals. I think it was a week ago, we all met to, a week ago, we all met to discuss the setting goals that we have, and we ran out of time. And we're here to pick up where we left off. And does anyone remember what that is? This is a test to everyone.
Denlin probably has everything written down.
Yeah, I do. Matter of fact, I have notes over here, too.
Thank you, great.
So we left off with the last one, which was goal number 1.
Right.
And we started discussion, and then we ran out of time of combining the objection 1 and 3 together into a single objective. And then I have, I didn't have the editable file, so my notes had 14 to 16 edit clarifications and a couple questions for Kelly on goal 2, objectives 2 and 3. So the last discussion point, at least in my notes, is we had to talk about goal number 1.
So let's talk about goal number 1. Is anybody for it? It's a trick question also, because we already approved it. No one's awake at this point. So I think what we need to do then is just run through the objectives and see if we want to keep them all in our list. Would anyone like to champion that, running through list item number 1? Or goal 1 list?
Mr. Shepherd had quite a bit of passion around this because I circled all the items.
Oh, no,
he was talking about.
passion equates into time. Let's have someone who's not. I'm
now
just
you
kidding.
have to, you put me on the spot and try and see if I've got my old notes out. Yeah, I had some things written down.
If you want, I can start out.
Why don't you start?
Okay. So if we go through, there's 15 objectives under goal number 1, which is a deepened sense of a place and community identity. And that's through the expansion of dynamic commercial industrial corridors, preservation of the integrity of our neighborhoods, and events and amenities that celebrate Clawson's diversity. So there's 2 very similar objectives, 1 and 3, so I'll talk about those first. Objective number 1 was to attract and retain a mixture of robust businesses into the city. And objective number 4 was, objective number 3 was encourage a mixture of robust development throughout the city. So they're kind of similar comments. And then we did have a side note here. They also had also not to be a red tape city or community. So with that said, wordsmithing, if we want, to those 2 objectives, objective 1 and 3, into a single objective.
Although, if you look at them, robust businesses could be separate from robust development, because development could encompass housing, development of property, different, but we could throw it all in one if you really want to. But they do have a little different slant.
Well, in light of that, Madam Mayor, if I may, item 5, blight issues, whether that is conditions of homes or it's unoccupied businesses, whether that's something that could be rolled into together.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, obviously, I would put objective 7 on the top of my list, but that's me.
Let me read that for you in case you're at home and wouldn't know what he would be wanting to be at the top of his list. It says, preserve and increase the city's tree canopy. And that is very important.
Staying consistent,
We jest.
that's all.
And there was a discussion at the end of maybe moving that to the sustainability goal section instead of underneath
right.
this one.
And if I may, I think some of these, we were talking about housing, that also, I think, dovetails into with the master plan, and the objective of creating robust development, whether that's housing as well. So,
Yeah, that could be 11, expand housing options, could go with that item number 3, robust development, ideally.
not that this is specific, maybe this is too specific, I should say. But one thing I was noticing is that talking about mobility and alternate forms of transportation, whether or not we can make the public more aware of the actual bike path that's throughout the city. I started following a sign and ran it. It's like, okay, where does this go now? So, and whether that ties back to the park and, activities that can happen in and around the wooded area, something along those lines, so.
Any other comments? So we're saying we approve them, and we just want to modify it?
So it sounds like we did talk about objective 1 and 3, maybe wordsmithing, combining. Do we want to move sustainability over to the?
Yeah, to.
Yep.
Mobility.
Move to the other goal. And then I got maybe editing objective 9 to comment about awareness of the existing bike or mobility options. And then object 11 going with number 3. So keeping, just reducing this 15 down to maybe 14 or 13, lucky number.
I agree with that.
Okay. And then what I was going to suggest, I've already converted this portion to an editable Google file. I know we use Word, so it's going to modify the format a little bit. And I can move these edits, at least from my notes and watching the videos, and get that to the city manager.
Good with that.
Is it council's pleasure to bring them back and formally approve them, or do you want to review them and receive and file them? What's your pleasure?
I think we should formally approve them.
So I can work with Councilman Dinlan to get the final edits complete and comport with the spirit of conversation from the last few meetings, and they'll be in the board packet for your review as a voting agenda item before June 30th. Which is the start of the end of the fiscal year.
Is that general consensus, or do we need a motion on that?
It'll be we can bring it back as an
And then
item,
move it. Okay.
unfinished business, and it can be the final edits for your consideration.
It should be pretty timely, because I've taken most of the edits already. I was just saving for this discussion.
I'll have this handy here.
Great. Then, since that's discussion, we can now move on to the next item, which is item 10, old unfinished business. Item A, consideration of a proposal to review and update the City of Clawson master plan. Nick?
Giffords-Webster originally proposed the master plan update during the April 4th council meeting. At the time, the city council requested to have the proposal reviewed and brought back with an adjusted cost for services. Giffords-Webster met with staff to discuss how we can have some cost savings for the city. After discussions, we were able to reduce the costs in modules 2, 4, 5, and 6, while also bundling the costs for services and tasks 4 and 5 into the retainer we have with Giffords-Webster. The new proposal now has a cost of $39,125, which is down from the original $45,750. And both Joe and Jill from Giffords did have events this evening, and so I will do my best to answer questions on behalf of them.
This went before, their goals went before the planning commission, before they came to us, correct?
Correct.
So they were fully vetted by planning?
Yeah, and if I would like to add, Giffords Webster was active in having some higher costs associated to get more citizen feedback, so to have some more surveys available to the public, some more public workshops. I think that's something they gathered based on discussions with the planning commission, is that they really want to have more encouraged public feedback. And so that's kind of why there's some more staff time allocated to some of these services, is because the planning commission has really strived to get more citizen feedback on some of these items for the master plan.
So has anyone looked at the tactics that they've used in the past for community engagement? Because if I recall surveys, we might get 120 recipients. They're not highly participated in. So do they have other plans on how to engage the public other than just putting something on social media and hoping that it captures some people's attention? Because that's a limited group, right? So we're missing population by doing that, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, but we need to bridge beyond.
Yeah, that is just one aspect of their public engagement. They plan on having a series of workshops hosted at City Hall, Hunter. The fire department is usually a common place where cities will have workshops for their master plan throughout the community. I mean, ideally, we'll be doing this throughout the summer here, and so maybe having some of the park would be able to get it on another demographic of people than, just at City Hall or the community center. Sorry, Joe.
Madam Mayor, I think the component about the school district is going to also be an additional draw for people to want to participate in a more through the surveys and community outreach as well.
That's true. Topic does drive
Yes.
interest, right? So that is part of it. And I think when we discussed last week, Giffords Webster, I know, provides a great service for us. Part of our inquiry last week was into not just bringing costs down here, but looking at their overall contract, what they're doing for us. I'm actually kind of interested in what they've charged us for in the most recent past, just to see what we're paying for in excess of what they promised that they would deliver. And I was part of bringing them in, and they did promise a lot. And I do think they do a good job representing, but I've talked to several people who serve on other committees, and they don't often feel like they have a say in the process, that perhaps Giffords is guiding the process. And as their planners, at some point, that's appropriate, but there should also be a feeling of communication and hearing the other party as well, right? So technically, the boards and commissions should be guiding operations and not the people whom we are employing, because then we get into the place where, are they doing some of these things because it's an extra $45,000? And I would like to think they wouldn't do that, but they're in business to be in business at the same time. So I'd like us to do our due diligence to kind of capture what we're doing. I'd like a really strong meeting with the boards and commissions to say, outside of them, to say, how do you feel about these people who are representing us? Do you feel like they're representing well? Are there things that we're missing? Are there things that they're missing? And that has nothing to do, well, it has everything to do with this. So I think that's really something that we should look into as an organization.
Is that in a form of motion?
Sure, if I don't have to repeat any of it.
I'll second.
You absolutely do.
Mayor, can we
Just play tape.
Did everything she said.
I think you're still discussing.
We are still discussing, yeah, I kind of went on a tangent, but it's separate, but it's not separate, because, I mean, let's address this and then maybe backtrack if we could do that. Councilmember
I
Tim.
promise to keep it short, but on a similar vein, I know on March 14th that the Planning Commission voted on that, and not about the pricing, but more the content. Just for Nick, of that Giffords and Webster's proposal that came to us as a city body, how much of that was from the Planning Commission's input? Because you had notes in your March 14th that you said addressed several items with relevant future considerations, previous discussion by the Planning Commission and other stakeholders. So if you were to gauge how much came from the Planning Commission, would it be 10%, 50%?
So the planning commission had, I want to say, at least 2 or 3 meetings, maybe if not more, with discussions about the master plan review, providing feedback on general topics that all reside in that proposal. And then there were 2 meetings where we also discussed that final proposal with the content in it. And so I wouldn't be able to put a percentage on it, but they had plenty of opportunity to share what they thought, and it seemed like that there was a pretty strong consensus what was in front of them.
Yeah, because I see a couple of the planning commissioners here tonight that didn't have public comment. And I just had remembered in fourth quarter when I was still on the planning commission, we were already talking about that, and I kind of left the party to be here. So that was just my concern that the planning commission had an active role, what came to us. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't implying that they didn't either, just for the record. I didn't mean to imply that in any way. I just want to ensure that there's a balance of all of these things. And there's certain things we have to do, and there are other things that we can do that would be nice to do, but there's a cost associated with all of it, and I just want to know who's driving it. That's my ultimate concern. Are we driving these things, or are they driving? And again, there's an appropriate level for each, but sometimes one body needs to back off a little because it's less appropriate for them to be driving.
Yeah, and I apologize.
You're good.
I was just saying, I think there's a balance of it. And so GIFLs, they're obviously the professional planners, so they kind of know what's going on in the field and can see some things happening in the state that might be affecting Clawson. Then they'll bring it to the planning commission. There's things that happen in the building department. So for example, there was something with accessory buildings and the style and fit and community. Then the city administration will bring that to the planners will develop it, bring it to the planning commission. And I think that, I don't want to speak for any planning commission members, I think they would like to have some more input on what content is discussed at the meetings, and I can see the importance in that, but when it comes to specific agenda items, there are true reasons behind it, and if they want to get specific background on why we're talking about this, I think that's something we can definitely push forward. I think, over the last couple of months, we're trying to do.
Well, I think that's key too. You pointed out something that's really critical, especially planning, because a lot of the things that happen on the planning commission are things that have happened before, and we have a lot of relatively new people on planning, so therefore you are unexposed to something that's brought before you, and you don't have that historical knowledge on why we're even talking about this. And planning is unique. You guys there's not a lot of downtime, so you're not just sitting back trying to come up with things to do, right? You're taking care of what needs to take place. I have someone who raised his hand. Is anyone willing to forego rules to allow public discussion during this moment?
You haven't even motioned to start the discussion, so.
Oh, well, we're discussing, but I don't want to do two
I
things.
stopped fighting on that. I just let you go.
Thanks. Good, pick your battles.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion for open discussion with the audience, sir.
Support.
Councilmember Shepherd?
Yes.
Tinlin?
Yes. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Milan?
Yes, yes.
Councilmember Sampson?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll be brief. It's been a very long day, and I've learned a lot about IT services, so thank you very much for that. I didn't speak up in public comment because it's sort of not a public thing. It's this, right? I'm on the planning commission with Chairman Kucera here, and very simply, I'm very grateful for Giffords and Webster's participation with us. They do a lot behind the scenes, for sure, to promote the continuity of our government here. They prepare a lot of this work. My understanding of the Michigan Planning Act is that it is the board, or the planning commission that is responsible for really curating that master plan update. We were trying for almost a year and change to make some traction on some critically needed updates, specifically to infrastructure, and really didn't get any traction with it. And the feedback, my take on it was, that's council's business. We've got to go to council. Council has to approve that. And so we worked through that and ultimately got some draft language to say, yes, we can talk about infrastructure after we get blessing from council. And it didn't make entire sense to me at the time, but it seemed a step in the right direction, so we did that. And they came back and they said, yes, we have your blessing from council, so thank you from that prior meeting. And before you could say anything was this very elaborate proposal of goals that you have now in your packet, I think, and we are supportive of it. It's true, we went through those line item by line item, and we like that. It was never brought to my attention that we were hanging in the balance was this $45,000 charge or anything like that. So had it come to Planning Commission that we had those line items and that expense, we probably I would have at least motioned to review those and make sure we had done everything we can to minimize those costs before they came here. And the Planning Commission themselves had really sharpened our pencils from our ambitions. You know, it's easy to say we have 10 million goals, but do we have 10 million goals worth of money to pay for and pursue those things? Is no, right? So we have to really judiciously go after them. And it seems like perpetually, as soon as we get the idea in our head that that is in our purview to make progress on, it's not, and it's got to go to someone else, and we sort of have to just accept that. So we would like an opportunity to go through and just make sure that we've put every bit of scrutiny to it that we can. But of course, we very much gratefully request your support to pursue that revision. We think it's critically needed, and we think it'll unify the city in many ways. So I can't speak for Giffords and Webster, but if you have any questions for planning, I'm happy to speak.
Wait, so did you just suggest that we not approve this motion to update the master plan at this time? You wanted to go back to planning? So
If
that
you would
can-
like to ask us to go back and sharpen our pencils and make sure that there's nothing left in there that could be reduced to save the council and the city taxpayers' money, I would certainly pursue that with enthusiasm, yes.
Madam Mayor, obviously, the Planning Commission would have the authority to amend their goals as far as what they seek that they're going to do. But when it comes to financial considerations, those properly belong to this body and no else.
Yeah, and I don't think he's suggesting that they don't belong here. I think what I heard him say is the Planning Commission is unaware of any potential cost of any item that was brought before us, which kind of is fair, right? Like, my priorities, if I have a budget, my priorities are different than if I don't have a budget, guaranteed, right?
It seems like we were writing checks that we couldn't cash, and we didn't even know we were doing it, right? All I thought was, like, when we set up those goals, that was just part of our retainer with Giffords and Webster. Had no idea that we were signing you guys up for another bill. So that I was a little regretful of that. That's all. But you're right.
I don't believe that, for purposes of this discussion, there's nothing wrong with, it is entirely the purview of the Planning Commission to make changes to the master plan, pursuant to the timeline, when directed by council, at the approval of council. Nothing wrong with that. That's actually encouraged, obviously, by state law. Monetary considerations are not considerations for you. Doing the job is the consideration. This body holds those considerations. That's the.
Yeah, but again, not saying they're going to make the financial determination, but when you have a list that states that something has a value to it, then your priority might change on it. It may not be something you want on the list at that time. And I'm not saying we should go back and send it back to planning. I'm not saying that, but I am saying perhaps something to work with moving forward on similar type issues. Because it does affect your value to something if it has a dollar on it, if there is a dollar associated with it.
So Commissioner Hare, to get this straight, you were given a whole bunch of I've read the list, a lot of wish list items. No costs were associated to those items.
Yeah, we didn't see this $45,000 number at that juncture. So it was easy for us to say, yes, sure, surveys, sure, all of this stuff, sure. No one had constrained the conversation to this costs money, and you're potentially jeopardizing some other project that has already had priority, already had standing from council's agenda. So
That would seem, I'm sorry.
That's all.
I just think that seems fair, because although we have the final authority to approve the budgets, we have no problem getting financial priorities established through your group.
Right.
I mean, it's just part of the decision-making process. You shouldn't be working in a cost-free vacuum and then throwing it in front of us, and all of a sudden the cost show up and say, oh, okay, now how do we sort this through?
Well, and maybe it's not appropriate for the planner to come forward with a menu of tasks along with an item, but it probably should be clear that this is an extra, right? That this is just an extra. It's not part of our normal services, and the community will pay for it, which is fair. But I guess it's just a perception of, would you have made decisions differently based on that? Because when it comes down to it, it's not just a master plan with a lump sum, it's a master plan that's been identified with specific sums to it, which makes it seem more like, maybe that one's not really worth $5,000 to me. Maybe I would have rather had one that's not on the list, or, maybe I would rather put another $2,000 on this one and do it really well, as opposed to just a precursory look at that one, but that's all
Right.
talk. Mr. Cusero, do you have anything that you'd like to add to this? Not that you have to, just
Open discussion.
freedom.
I appreciate Nate's looking at this and looking at it closer. I'm pleased with what it is that we sent it on to you, and I agree that yeah, it would be nicer if we had numbers in front of us when we're looking at these ideas. It's the same as the CIP. We did that with not a lot of numbers, figures. So that one kind of got rushed through on us. And I think we're attempting to do the best we can with what information we're given. So that's the best we can do at this point. I would like to get you guys to schedule another workshop like we have had in the past between mayor, council, planning, and ZBA.
Yeah.
I think we had it's been over a year, I think, since we've done that. But I think it's a good group to get that people together so we're all on the same page. That's what we're talking about. I'm very pleased with we carry on with. I don't really think that we have to look at the budget again, in my personal opinion.
Thank you. Appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you.
And no way in trying to put authority on a body that doesn't, we want to ensure that every body, ours included, sticks to what we're supposed to be doing and not take on the responsibilities and roles of others. But for decision-making, information is I just think you can't go wrong providing just a little bit more information. So I got us all way off track, and now we need a motion to approve this. We have the interest to approve.
Madam Mayor, I move the proposal to review and update the City of Clawson Master Plan as submitted by Giffords Webster in the amount not to exceed $39,125 be approved as presented.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sampson?
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd?
Yes.
Councilmember Tinlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Milan?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we will approve the Giffords Webster plan to provide updates to our master plan in the amount of $39,125. Next up is public comments for items not on the agenda. If you would like to speak to items not on the agenda, we welcome your thoughts and comments. Please state your name and your address. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Tim Quinn, Selfridge Boulevard. First of all, I want to say thank you for all of your efforts. I know what you guys do is not always appreciated, and I know it's hard work, but it seems like you're firing on all cylinders, so I'm really appreciative of that. The reason I'm here tonight, I had a question. Currently, if I want to watch a council meeting, I can do that at home if I'm not able to attend, or I can go back on YouTube and watch it later in the week. A lot of times I'm up north at the cabin, and I'm not able to attend. But what I found is I can't participate in public comment. And I'm just wondering, and maybe this subject's been brought up in the past and I'm not aware, but I'm sure there's a lot of people in the community that if you really want to hear their input, I would encourage you, if you can get the man behind the curtain to hit that switch that would allow people from their house to participate. Because public comment tonight is kind of sparse. I like to encourage all the citizens who can't come here for maybe their health reasons or their jobs or whatever, but they can get on their computer at home and say, hey, I like to participate. I don't know how difficult it would be. I'm on the Planning Commission up north, and we have that ability to do so in a very small community. And we get a lot of people participating, which is great, because I think that's what you want to hear. You want to hear what people are thinking and what they're talking about. So if it's not too much trouble, I would encourage you to consider putting in a way for the rest of the citizens to participate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is something we've talked about in the past. Nick?
So on the top of each agenda, there is a toll-free phone number that is available for residents to call in and vocalize their public comment via their phone. And as always, I think this method has kind of gone out the window since, COVID and a lot of the technology shifted. But, residents can always submit handwritten letters or emails to staff, city clerk, referencing, may this please be read into the record for public comment. Is it typical nowadays? Not always, but
You get 3-4 a year. Someone, so they can't be there, email me and I'll read them.
Exactly.
Well, if I may, we probably get 4 or 5 every meeting, and we can see their face if they want to be seen. They can talk just like your guests have talked tonight. So I understand you can call in, but maybe this would be an easier way to do it. And I don't know if you're set up to do so. I can't believe it's that difficult to accommodate. Just my thought. Thanks.
Thanks.
Well, we're set up to do it right now. 'Cause remember, I talked the other day.
True.
The problem was, I think we voted it down to have everybody be able to do that. Because there was a cost, so do we need a motion? I'll make a motion, we let everybody talk.
So if you remember, during COVID and all of our meetings were virtual, when Merge Live was doing those meetings, they would have everyone sign in about 15 to 20 minutes before the meeting so they can make sure who is going to be able to show their face, speak during the meetings. And then at 7:30, they would only allow people to interact vocally through the microphone after 7:30, unless it was an approved member. So if you had, council member X join at 7:35 and they know the name, they know the person, they're going to be able to engage then. And so this mechanism is something Merge Live does in all of their communities that they do the meetings for, is to only allow the phone-in option, so you don't have someone join via the Zoom link and, quote unquote, Zoom bomb the meeting, because that was a very, prominent thing when municipalities were having their meetings virtually.
Remember.
And so it's just a safety mechanism in place. So we still do allow and encourage people to call in that phone option. And of course, the letter option as well.
Okay. Great. Anyone else? Then we'll close public comment and move on to the city clerk's report. August?
3 things, but only one of them I have ready. Tonight, the Charter Commission did approve a final draft of the proposed charter. I was not there for the next steps. I know they're planning on having some educational and town halls. They did text me the next meeting is going to be in May 9th, and I think they're going to release that information. So I do believe it comes to you soon. But they just the detail, I wasn't there for the final details with the attorney, but they did approve a final resolution and clapped their hands and gave each other a pat on the back. So that happened. 2 other things that I was asked to get to you are not ready. The ad hoc committee on the commissions is not ready due to people's travel schedules and just not getting it done. And the proposal about the live cable broadcast, I reached out to Ken, who did send me an email that he gave a presentation to this body about 1.5 years ago. It had to be before I was here. And he gave prices for what it would take, and the council expressed that it was too expensive for the lack of people who watch. I asked him to please write that up again, but there's modern prices, and let me know if Comcast owes us anything, because sometimes they do. They will replace old equipment. It depends on the contract we have with them. So that next step, I'm waiting for a response on that. But I did reach out and got progress on both of those, but not finalized. And that's where I'm at.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for the city clerk? No. Then next up will be our city attorney's report.
Madam Mayor, I have nothing this evening, but since you're conducting the meeting, I think Mr. Schenk is still on, and somebody needs to save that man.
Cut him loose.
This is part of his white glove service that we spoke of earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you. City manager's report, Mr. Ricker.
Madam Mayor, just to the clerk's point about the Charter Commission, they will give you an update either at one of the meetings in May.
Yeah.
I have nothing else, ma'am.
Nick, do you have anything you want to share? You're not on our agenda, but you do a lot, so I'm going to give you the opportunity.
The date for the Blair Bazaar is May 21st. You alluded to that earlier.
I think it was May something, 20 something. And then city council comments, Councilmember Shepherd.
It's construction season. Where are we with some of the projects we've got? And also, have there been any new home constructions or applications for home constructions and for existing home constructions that have remained unfinished, what is the likely outcome for those projects?
You want to go first on that one?
So I imagine you are referencing the two homes, the one on Biowood, one on Phillips. Those have both been stuck in court between the property owner and the builder. The one on Biowood recently did close, and they do have a new new contractor to do that home. And we're working on making sure that contractor gets everything in place so we can get that home, built to the standard that it should be. And then the other one on Phillips is still caught up in court at this time, so there's no update there.
There are two new projects or homes that are going in over by Hunter.
Yes.
How, for those parcels, that the setback to the side property seems awfully close. Are they still within our ordinances, or did they need ZBA approval for those?
So those, I did some digging into those properties. So those three parcels from the Boschma corner next to Hunter and then the two new builds that are occurring right now, that used to be one lot. And back in 2006, that was split into 3 lots. And then since then, only that one house in the corner has been developed. And so those 2 houses do have approved plans, and they do meet the 5-foot setback. But when they're building the basement, they do have to build inside of that 5-foot setback to get in there and pour the cement and the footings. And what happened was, with all the rain, there was a little bit of erosion there. But the contractor and resident have engaged, and we should have no more issues there.
Okay, all right, but that's a legacy item because we have the large lot ordinance that was put in place after that, and then it's been since modified. So, but those properties were grandfathered in since that was that ordinance was put in place. So.
Yeah, those were split, like I said, back in 2006, and do have separate parcel ID numbers.
Okay, right. That's all. Thanks.
Councilor Tinley?
I've got 1.5. Just on the reappointment and appointment process, just more thanking Mr. Shepherd, August, and Kelly for the input. We got some items that we'll recommend. We got some guidance from the city attorney as well on section 2.2 ordinance. So we'll get that to the council fairly quickly. And just on the performance tool progress, the documents back from the city attorney, minor edits were done, but it didn't really impact the content or the process. And now the edits are being worked on for those other reporting roles other than the city manager, and will be submitted back to council for you in an upcoming agenda once I get done with Joe. That's it.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
I think pretty much all my questions got answered today, so.
Wow, what an efficient meeting we've had. Councilmember Sampson?
This is, I don't have anything.
You don't have anything there? I have one really riveting question. The baseball game competition thing? Coach.
I'm in, unless I get.
Yes, there was a slight error. I think it said Saturday, May 7th. It's Sunday,
Sunday.
May 7th, yes. But I'm re-mailing that out tomorrow. But May 7th seems to be the date, and I've got about 5 people already, so I'm halfway to a team
There you go.
Nate?
in one day.
That's good. Okay.
Sure. Thanks for using that baseball reference. Pinch hitting today. I was proud of you. Using it.
I just want to say thank you to everyone for letting us have a great meeting this evening. We accomplished a little bit. We have things to work on. I had something, but I can't remember. Oh, you have 2 hours and 30 minutes roughly to get your taxes finished. If you're watching this live, put down the Coke and get back to the computer and get it done, right? And that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
Roll call?
Tinlin?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Milan?
Yes.
Sampson?
Yes.
Shepherd?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
9:30 on the dot.